All right, everyone. Hello, hello, and welcome. Happy Thursday. Can you believe it's already Thursday again? And it's June. What the heck, right? I know. So I am really excited about this conversation that we are about to have. And first of all, just want to say I'm a huge fan of this particular company that we're going to be talking with today or talking about. We're going to dive into really what I think is rapidly becoming a very hot topic in health and longevity, and that is immune resilience. So, this happens to be a topic very near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure it is for many of you as well. As you've probably seen, lots of your clients really struggle in this area. So, joining me today is Dr. Joselyn Strand, and she is the Vice President of Clinical Education and Research at Better Way Health Labs, otherwise known as BWH Labs. And if you guys recall, I had a nice conversation with the CEO of Better Way Health Labs, Reggie, back in November. And since that conversation, there's been a lot of new findings from a TruDiagnostic study. And that's what we're really going to dig into today. We are going to dig in deeper on the role of beta-glucan in supporting immune function, recovery, and health and aging. And really excited to dig into this new research that's literally hot off the press. So I want to welcome Dr. Joselyn. Thank you so much for joining us today. And just thank you in advance for your willingness to share this exciting new data.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Leslie. I'm really excited. And when you say hot off the press, the last little tidbits of data just rolled in last week. And so this is like the first conversation with all of the data here. So
Wow.
Very exciting and really exciting outcomes, which I'm very, I'm looking forward to sharing, and so excited to give other practitioners the capacity to work with this product in a way that gets meaningful outcomes for their patients.
Yeah. Okay, we got a lot to cover today, don't we? We just added, like, in our pre-conversation, we realized there's so many things that we need to get into today. So why don't we start with you giving, if you don't mind, a little overview of the study parameters with TruDiagnostics, and perhaps give us an overview of those exciting results, hot off the press.
I'd love to, and it will be a great spot to set the stage for the rest of the conversation. So this research was done, as you said, with TruDiagnostic, which tests epigenetic markers. So not the genes themselves, but the activity of the genes through methylation and histone modification, which is big language, but basically we're looking at, they use algorithms to identify what the changes are on the epigenetic and cellular level when we introduce an intervention. So this is before and after testing. I think we started with 60 patients. I think the total outcome data was on 37 patients before and after. So they're testing, doing an initial test, and then taking 1,000 milligrams a day, which is a pretty high dose, but we wanted to see the needle move. And it's not an exorbitant dose like it often happens in clinical clinical research. It's an achievable dose, relatively easy to take that amount, or very easy. And so they took that for 12 weeks and then reevaluated, did the test again. And then we watched, they're assessing over 900,000 epigenetic markers, and then they watched to see what happened and applied algorithms. So it was a pretty short time frame, only 3 months, that we saw the needle move the way that we did. And so that's sort of the basics on what the test, or what the research itself looked like. There's a lot more to it than that.
Okay, so to be clear, just to clarify a couple quick points. Did I hear you say the dose was 500 milligrams?
1,000 milligrams of
twice a day. Okay, so 1,000 total. Gotcha. And that's I have my bottle of Better Way Beta-Glucan. That is your typical dose, right? That's exactly.
Yes, yeah. So there are capsules that are 100, and there are capsules that are 500. So two of the 500 capsules a day is what the research participants took for 12
And did I hear you say 900,000 Epigenetic markers.
That's what they
Okay.
assess. Yeah. And we moved the needle on 126,000 of those epigenetic markers, which is really broad and really unheard of. What I think, I'm not going to quote Ryan Smith exactly, just because I don't remember exactly what he said, but for a nutritional supplement, it's really remarkable to see this kind of movement in that short of a time period. And I can go into, do you want me to explain a little bit more about exactly what that means? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, okay. I think so.
Okay, so sort of overarching, the most important takeaway isn't one of the single aging clocks or biomarkers. It was the story of convergence of findings. So across just this broad activity across so many different body systems and clocks, that really indicated this was a strong signal. It wasn't a one-off, right? It was very consistent findings. And so it's that convergence of findings, and across 6 different areas. So I'm going to list them out, and then I'm going to go into them each a little bit deeper. So
perfect.
You don't have to memorize it right now. But so organ system, biological aging. So that was the first one. Inflammation related markers, senescence markers, which I think your audience in particular is going to want a little bit deeper information on that. Stress and PTSD-associated methylation signatures, which are really neuroimmune effects. So we're not saying it treats PTSD, but these are what are tracked to look at neuroimmune effects in the body. Immune cell composition, and genome-wide epigenetic remodeling. So those are the 6 areas that we saw statistically significant improvement. There are other areas we saw improvement, but it didn't reach statistical significance, which is why we're looking into doing another study that's a little bit longer term to see just how far can we move the needle with these therapeutics. But taken all together, the findings really suggest that BWH85, which is the active ingredient in the capsule, is induced broad immune epigenetic response in just 12 weeks that really supports that it's doing trained immunity, that is supporting trained immunity. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that later, it sounds like, but trained immunity, it's a different kind of immunity that hasn't really been talked about and is only really recently discovered. That is pretty mind-blowing. As a scientist myself, it was the first time that my mind was blown when I started looking at this data, not this data, but data about beta-glucan. It's totally paradigm shifting, really.
Well, you want to maybe describe what that means?
Sure.
I don't think that is a term that, I mean, I've heard of it mainly because I've heard your webinars in the past, but maybe it would be helpful for our audience for you to describe that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I was in medical school, there was innate immunity, and it was the rapid acting, non-specific immune defense that we have in the cases of something we've never seen before. These are the first cells that come in and take action. And then there was adaptive immunity. There is still adaptive immunity, and that's more specific. Like if it sees a specific, like influenza A, it will remember that. It takes longer to take effect, but it has this capacity to adapt and remember something, so that our immune response, when we see it the next time, is more capable of getting right on top of it and killing it. And it's always been considered sort of the smarter arm. But now what we're understanding is that there's another piece to the innate immune system that has, I mean, this is what's also mind-blowing to me. Here's another mind-blowing one, is that we have receptors on some of our innate cells for beta-glucan. And so I was like, why do we have receptors for beta-glucan? What is going on here, right? And really, it's called a conserved pattern recognition receptor. Beta-glucan is something that exists in many different things, but mostly what we're looking at in this one is a yeast-derived beta-glucan. And we don't want overgrowth of yeasty, fungally things in our bodies. So we have this receptor that is has been, like I said, conserved evolutionarily through many, many different, it's in all mammals. It's not just humans, and it's in earthworms, and it's in shrimp, right? Because this is an important piece to staying healthy and alive in the environment, whatever the environment is doing. So at any rate, these pattern recognition receptors, when they are bound, they actually interact with the innate immune system, and even downstream with the adaptive immune system. We won't go into that in any more detail, but it's amazing, is that it basically wakes up or activates our innate immune system creates a system of broader readiness so that it's paying more attention to whatever we come into contact with. I would think about it almost like we're untrained. We have an untrained immune system. So imagine that you're trying to run a 10K or something, right? And you show up on race day and you've never even jogged, right? And so that's sort of, you can do it, your body will be there, and you might even make it to the finish line, but it's not going to be pretty, right? So if you train for that, then your body is more capable of running the race, but your body is also more capable of every other thing, not just running the race. So you become more broadly fit. And so this is really immune fitness the Beta-Glucan induces, this immune fitness, so that it is more capable of all things, not just, and what do we think, immune system, most people think colds and flu, right? Or sort of staying healthy in the event of an exposure, but it's also responsible for tissue repair. So if we get an injury or if we have a surgery, it's responsible for resilience. So how do we recover? So even if you use any of the devices like the Oura Ring, right, your resilience is governed in part by your immunity as well. So, and of course, surveillance. So things like cells that are dead, damaged, and don't belong. And so even like cancer cells, trained immunity can help. So it's not the Beta-Glucan, it's a trained immune system that has a higher capacity to detect and eliminate anything in the body that doesn't belong there.
Oh, so. Okay. And that obviously includes cancer cells.
Indeed, it does. Okay. Without making claims on cancer at all, right? What we're doing really is the way that I think about it, and the reason it works for me so well as a naturopathic doctor is that we're leaning into the healing power of nature and to the healing capacity, innate healing capacity that our body has by supporting its activity. And so that to me sits very beautifully in the principles of naturopathic medicine. And it's really just this ability to trust that our bodies know what they need, that we can find what we need in nature. And that's what this form of Beta-Glucan is really doing, is finding and working directly with the immune system.
Okay. Amazing.
That's an aside to trained immunity.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. Why, I wanted to have this conversation with you. We had chatted about this a little bit before we hit the live button. This compound I'm just curious why is it not on our radar?
Yeah,
I don't know how to put it. As an RD, like before I became familiar with Better Way, honestly, I kind of heard of it, but it wasn't really top of mind. And I wondered what you've observed, if you see that to be true with your colleagues, and why. I'm just trying to figure out why. Why is
I know it's baffling, right? And so I had the same experience where when I first started talking with Reggie, and he sent me the book, Beta-Glucan. It's well named, Beta-Glucan. It says Nature's Secret underneath it. It's the subtitle. But as I was reading it, and just the sheer quantity of research that's been done on this molecule is astounding. And I kept thinking to myself, why has there not been a scientist yet who has championed this product and brought it into the practitioner market so that other practitioners understand what it is, what's trained immunity, what is Beta-Glucan, and the different forms of Beta-Glucan. And yes, same as you, Leslie, I had used Beta-Glucan myself, but I just picked one. I didn't really understand that there are different ones that work differently. And so it's remarkable to me. And so most people are familiar with Beta-Glucan in the form of mushrooms. And that's the active ingredient in a lot of the ingredient in mushrooms. Okay. It's a little bit, it's quite different from this form of Beta-Glucan. So a couple of things, and maybe it's just marketing. Maybe it's straight up that nobody has done it yet. Okay. There's also not necessarily a lot of money in really deeply healing products, right? Because you don't create a lifelong consumer when they're a healthy consumer, right? In the medical industry. So that's my own bias.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm not necessarily representing BWH Labs when I say that. That's just my own bias after being in the industry for a long time and scratching my head and maybe even pounding my fist at a number of different things. Like, why is this happening? But yeah, it's such a remarkable substance. And it's, that's why I'm so excited to be on board and to be even having this conversation with you today. Like, everybody needs to listen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It really is true. Okay. So just, if you could just, again, let's go back to the mushroom connection, just so everyone's clear. Can you give us kind of the high level? How is this compound different?
Yeah. So beta-glucan is a polysaccharide molecule.
Okay.
So all beta-glucans are a polysaccharide molecule with an identical backbone. And then what happens after that is what changes their behavior when it's inside the body, the biological response that we have to it. And so most people have heard of oat or barley beta-glucan as well. So those have a 1-3-1, what's called a 1-3-1-4 branching pattern. Okay. And that has effects on the cardiovascular system. And it's a prebiotic fiber. So it's great, but it's different from this. Mushroom, same thing, great, but different, right? And so let me say that what yeast-based yeast-derived beta-glucan has is a 1-3-1-6 structure, which just means that there's a branch coming off of a particular part of that backbone of the polysaccharide molecule. And that is like a key for the lock on our immune cells. So you can imagine the way that I was thinking about this the other day is, have you ever tried to go and put like a cover on your light switch, right? And it's a Phillips head, and you're looking for the Phillips head, and the one you find is like way too big for the screwdriver. So you can do it, but it's going to take extra work, and it's maybe going to strip the screw, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder to accomplish, right? Yeah. But it will work to some degree. Some of what's in the mushrooms and also seaweed there are some forms of seaweed that also have it. So it will work, but it's not only 1-3-1-6 the way the yeast-derived beta-glucan is. So it's multiple structures. So it's just not as effective at initiating this sort of downstream immunological cascade that you get with this highly purified form of beta-glucan. And the other piece that really sets it apart is that BWH 85, the 85 stands for 85% purity. And that means that in a capsule, 85% of what you're taking is that 1-3-1-6 branched beta-glucan. Whereas if you pick up a capsule off the shelf and it says 100 milligrams of beta-glucan, if it's not purified to a certain degree, you might be getting 2 milligrams. I'm making that up. I'm not calling out any other brand or anything, but just trying to get the idea across.
Really important. Okay. And something that probably most of us, if we're looking for a beta-glucan on, whatever platform, perhaps we're not looking at it that way. So it's really, really worth mentioning.
Yeah, and as a practitioner, we want something that's consistent. So we want it to be like within a certain dosing range every time that person takes a capsule, so that we have a predictable outcome with that patient. And that's really when you have that standardized purity, you're getting that narrow window, right, of dosing. So you're going to get the same effect with each capsule. So it's really important as a practitioner to understand that.
Oh, that's huge. Okay. I'm so glad you brought that up.
And I never even finished talking about the outcome data.
Oh gosh, let's go back. Okay, let's circle back. I think that's the most critical part of today.
Well, I'll do my best to keep it kind of short. I could go on and on, but I want to at least touch in a little bit on what it means, right? What the outcome data showed. So we saw the strongest favorable findings were first in the organ system biological age. So we saw age reversal of right around 2 years. It was a little different in each of the body systems. So there were 11 organ system clocks, and in 7 of them, we saw statistically significant improvement. That included liver, which was the highest. So fascinating. Wow. Blood, brain, inflammation, metabolic health, musculoskeletal health, and immune system naturally as well. So really, again, broad multi-system biological response, not an isolated immune effect.
And reduction in biological age.
Yes. So we have chronological age. And actually, every person that was a part of this study was aging more rapidly than their chronological age. And then we reverse that for all.
You weren't just going with like otherwise,
right,
over the top healthy people.
Right, exactly, which is really
Amazing.
useful from a practitioner perspective. Like this works for everyone. I mean, I don't mean that like well, anyway,
I
I'll let you
understand.
do what you want with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And just kind of as a little sidebar, I have done that the blood test through TruDiagnostic. So I'm really familiar, well, at least as familiar as I can be with, like you do get a report that looks at all of those 11 body systems and gives you you call it a biological age, right? And obviously you're going to compare that to your actual age, and it's not fun when you see you're 5 years
humbling.
in this organ system, like, or more, whatever the case is. So yeah, so this is amazing. And it was only in 3 months.
3 months.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty exciting. Okay, so the second area was inflammation and cardiometabolic biomarkers.
Okay.
So we saw favorable shifts in CRP. So it wasn't actually CRP tested, but the methylation around the genes that modify CRP in the body. So CRP, so C-reactive protein, which is a generalized inflammation marker, blood sugar regulation, vascular function, kidney-related physiology. So some really, really exciting to see those the needle move there. And so again, those are surrogates. They're not the actual, we didn't actually look at a hemoglobin A1C and a CRP. Okay. But collectively, they suggested favorable cardiometabolic and inflammatory signature. And again, so I'm probably going to say this multiple times, but really we're looking at the immune system as sort of the master operator above all of these other body systems. And so, and this is continuing to be shown in the data. So you can listen for that as I talk through the rest of it. So senescence markers improved. So senescent cell is one that's alive, but not functioning normally anymore. And we want those to exit the cell cycle, go away, because they're doing crazy things. They're like the old man screaming the wrong things. He's outlived his usefulness. We'll take care of him and take good care of him in the way that he needs to be taken care of, but we don't want it in charge anymore. We don't want it signaling, I guess it's like inflammation and tissue repair, aberrant tissue repair and stem cell function. It can affect all of those things, senescent cells. Instead, immune system dysregulation, and it can also sort of make the other nearby cells misbehave as well. So very exciting to see immunosenescence improve. And let me see here that this is the other piece, is that immunosenescence is all the time more recognized as a central driver of aging, chronic inflammation, and loss of resilience. So this was an exciting finding for longevity, which I know is of particular interest to your community here.
Yeah.
Okay, fourth one. We're halfway done. PTSD-associated methylation scores improved. And that's really neuroimmune effects. So it's not PTSD treatment, but it's neuroimmune effects that we can look more deeply with longer term research. But really interesting, of course, neuroinflammation, huge driver in general of aging. And I think, most of the people I talk to, it's one of the things they'd like to avoid the most is neuroinflammation. As well, for all of the, nobody wants to lose their cognitive capacity before the end of their lifespan. So, okay, immune cell composition shifted. So we saw increase in natural killer cells, actually 31%.
Oh my gosh.
12 weeks, increase in natural killer cells. That's incredible. Memory B cells. So now we're crossing over into adaptive immunity, CD8 naive T cell. So we're looking outside just the innate immune system into the adaptive immune system, and then neutrophils as well, which are part of the innate immune system. So again, supports that idea that beta-glucan alters the immune architecture and immune readiness. So this is that support of trained immunity. It's really showing up in the numbers that we're looking at here. Okay, last but not least, the biggest finding is that this genome-wide epigenetic remodeling. So I mentioned this before, that there were over 900,000 genes that were evaluated and epigenetic markers that were evaluated. And the study identified that 126,000 of those significantly were altered by beta-glucan. Beta-glucan.
Wow.
And what Dr. Ryan Smith said is that for a nutritional intervention, this is an extremely large signal. So really exciting for us to see this outcome data. You start research and then you cross your fingers.
Oh,
So it's really nice to see when it's the sort of trust that we have in this product and its capacity to create change for people. So yes, that's the gist of it. It's not totally comprehensive, but I think hopefully you get the takeaway, right?
I do.
Activity.
I do. It's absolutely remarkable. How often does one come across a compound that has all of these implications?
Mm-hmm.
I can't really. Can you think of anything?
I can't.
As a doctor,
I think it's diet and lifestyle, and that's sort of not a supplement, but more like lifestyle interventions that can have this broad activity, good sleep, lowering stress. But other than that, there's no supplement that I'm aware of that is more broadly applicable for people across the entire lifespan.
Okay. Any contraindications?
The only active contraindication is if someone's on an immunosuppressive therapy, then you don't necessarily want to go directly against that immunosuppressive therapy.
Makes sense.
By altering immune activity. That said, it doesn't just push immunity, it really creates intelligent immune activity. So immunomodulation, so if something's too high, it's like an adaptogen for the immune system.
I see.
So if we're too inflamed, then it has and that's what this research shows too. Actually, it has the capacity to really bring down areas that are hyper responsive and to bring up the areas that are hypo responsive, so that the immune system is more efficient, more coordinated, more focused on what it's supposed to be doing, not firing guns, more guns, right? It's actually, it knows where the target is and how to eliminate it without excessive inflammation, that sort of thing.
Okay. So how should, air quotes, whenever you use the word should, right? How should we be thinking as practitioners? How should we be thinking about immune resilience? I guess more in the context of longevity.
Mm-hmm.
I know you talked about that. There's some, great findings in this particular study with the Better Way Health Beta-Glucan. So do you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, I think it really speaks to the fact that the immune system is sitting at the sort of the trailhead or the top of the stream, the river, the stream. I'm not sure what analogy to use, but that it is a master regulator of many of our other systems in the body, and a master regulator of the aging process because of senescence, because of inflammation, because of how it's governing tissue repair. It has to be engaged in order to have sort of a comprehensive support for aging. It just it's becoming so clear with this research, but it also just makes sense from a critical thinking perspective when you understand the activity of the immune system as well.
I see. Well, let's talk patient types. All right. So I always like to think about it from a patient type perspective. So which types or diagnoses, who tends to benefit most from this compound, Beta-Glucan? Tell us a little bit about that, and when do you consider introducing it into a patient protocol?
Okay, so a couple of things, like we could talk about diagnoses that seem like low-hanging fruit where the immune system is concerned. People trying to, if they know they've had an exposure or they're going to get an exposure to, if they're to a pathogen, if they're traveling, is one of the easy reaches, right? And cognitively, mentally, it makes sense, right? Anyone that's got active immune system dysregulation, whether it's hyper-responsive or hypo-responsive, those are easy people to identify. But I think resilience in general, so people who get sick or get sick easily, pick up every bug that's come through, right? That's also that would be really well directed. And people who get sick and stay sick for, whether it's long COVID or whether it's, I probably shouldn't say that word out loud, but whether it's, a long-term chronic viral illness, or even people who get a cold and they're down for a week instead of 2 days, or a day, like everyone else is, with the same illness. So that's sort of an easy place to look at. anyone who struggles with recovery, anybody who struggles with chronic inflammation, right? So then we're branching into, where is inflammation related to chronic illness? We think of metabolic dysfunction, cardiovascular dysfunction, of course, all of the neurodegenerative diseases, mood, insomnia. So I don't mean to confuse the situation, but the reality is, because the immune system is governing a lot of this, or participating in it, that beta-glucan has the potential to really help. And the cool thing is that you don't necessarily need 1,000 milligrams a day to get there. So you can get there even in the research. So this is animal studies, though you can see even at 2 milligrams per kilogram, which equates to about 110 milligrams for 100 pounds of body weight. At that dose, there was a 50% increase in the immune cell activity.
Wow.
So just taking a low dose. So if you take 100 or 200 milligrams a day, it will take longer to get there because of how it works in the body, which is pretty complex science. But you will get there to the point where your immune system is trained and active. So it's more about consistency, taking it on a regular basis, than it is about high dose.
Oh, interesting. I was going to ask, does it make sense? Is more better?
I mean, it is to a point. And like I said, with the research, it's definitely an approachable dose that was used, but it's a higher dose than is necessarily essential to see the needle move. But when you're investing all that money and time and energy into a study, we want to stack the deck for a good outcome. And for sure, we saw that. So I mean, it's pretty remarkable that I was just having this conversation with AJ Lanigan, who's the formulator of this product, and really anybody could benefit. I'll give you an example. So I have one of my good friends. Our families are good friends, and the dad is a vice principal at an elementary school. And I had received the bottles from Reggie, the sample bottles, and so I gave one to my friend Joe. Joe, and this call out to Joe. And Joe has not gotten sick in an elementary school since he started taking 100 milligrams a day of this product. And he's very healthy. He's got a great lifestyle. He's active and works out. And so it's where he has seen a huge difference. And because he hasn't brought it home, his wife hasn't gotten sick since then either, And so that's a anecdotal case study, but it's just an illustration of the fact that depending on who you are and what you're trying to accomplish, like for me, I take 1,000 milligrams a day. Go hard.
I go all in.
Yeah, same over here. A little intensity over here, but it doesn't have to be quite that high. And the nice thing about that is it opens up. Of course, it's an investment. Anytime that you're taking a supplement, it adds to your monthly cost. It adds to your supplement burden. And so, but it's very cool that one a day really can happen.
So you don't have to take, you can get the lower dose, which honestly is significantly less than the dose that you and I are taking.
Yep. And you'll still see benefits.
Excellent. So we have a question that just came in, and I do think it's a good one. So let me, and by the way, guys, I am sharing. If you're interested in opening a wholesale account, go ahead, go to lesliebytel.com/BWH. And I think you get some pretty nice pricing if you open a wholesale account. So and just FYI, this does come in different forms. So kids can take it. There's a 100 milligram tablet, which as Joselyn just shared, is efficacious as well in some of these endpoints. And then there's the 500 milligram tablet, which is what I take. I do that twice a day. And and one of the reasons, and many people here know that I have a very long history of mold exposure, I could write a book on that, I think. And so, my immune system has been through the ringer, and that is related to the question that we have here. This is from Sandy. Hey, Sandy, how is this tolerated in a highly reactive body that isn't tolerating basic supplements and homeopathy? And this person has a history, or perhaps currently has SIRS from mold and Lyme disease.
Yeah. Wow. So that's, I mean, about as complex as it gets, right? In terms of immune system behavior.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is it has the potential to be very, very helpful in someone like that.
Yeah.
I definitely would go with this product, which is highly purified, because if someone like that is exposed to other yeast body parts, not just the beta-glucan. So beta-glucan is not what initiates the SIRS response. You know, there can be beta-glucan, but it's a different form. And anyway, I don't want to get too deeply into the weeds with that, but just to say that I would just watch that patient. I would start that person very low, like the 100 milligrams, and just see how it's tolerated. Just watch the patient carefully. Really important. I'm sure this is a practitioner asking about a patient. It sounds like, you know, that making sure that person's under the care of a practitioner. And then I would do things, I would align it with things like drainage. I love the German biological medicine as well. So if someone is very reactive, making sure that all of their drainage pathways are open as you initiate therapeutics. And you could also open the capsule if they can't tolerate a whole capsule. But when I was talking to AJ yesterday, it sounds like he again, anecdotal, this is not clinical research, right? It's just, he's been doing this for 30 plus years. And he has seen some extraordinarily sensitive people respond very beautifully to this product. And so I'll just leave it at that, you know, but you know, I would just, with the caveat for the patient, the one thing I would say, one thing that's my experience working with this product is that I also have a history of mold exposure, Lyme disease, chronic. I live in northern Minnesota. I had long COVID, you know, all of those things. So in histamine, you know, I was so really high histamine responsiveness. And when I started taking the beta-glucan, I used to work for Biocidin. I don't know if you're familiar with that product.
I am.
Yeah. So that's where I spent the last 6 years, was doing their education and research. And we would talk about Herxheimer reactions all the time, you know, there. And what I didn't understand, that there's a difference in what you experience here with immune responsiveness and a Herxheimer reaction. And they can feel similar because both of them are an immune system response. But in one of them, it's just you're inflamed, the bugs are dying off, you're not feeling good, and your body's trying to clear it. But when you do work with beta-glucan, what's really happening is that the immune system, you know how when we get the flu, we get so fatigued? It's because the reason we're fatigued is because our immune system is like taking action.
Yes.
It is because of that. And so if you go really high dose, which I did, of course, 1500, I started at 1500 milligrams. I was like, oh, why am I so tired? Well, my bone marrow was activating, right? My body, my immune cells were taking, you know, they're getting initiated into trained immunity. And so I was exhausted and headachy, and that went away in a few days.
Okay.
And also, you don't have to do it that way. You can start low and slow, which, you know, I'll learn at some point to do myself. But it's a different thing. It's actually a healthy response. And herxing, you know, is a good sign in terms of like something's dying off. But if you're herxing, I always feel like that's a poorly supported response, right? We should be able, with binders and drainage, to prevent that herxing reaction.
Yes.
And the same is true that with this, with beta-glucan, if you start lower, you're going to have a gentler entry point for the sensitive patients. Yeah.
I love that. Okay. I saw we have a couple more questions, if you don't mind.
No.
Hey, Barbara, how are you? Okay. So Barbara has actually this question, anything with eczema, and also any known benefits or contraindications with hypothyroidism.
Yeah. Okay. So both of those are, again, overactive immune system, sort of different pathways, right? One is really histamine mediated, or a type 1 hypersensitivity. And then hypothyroidism itself can be autoimmune. Most often it is autoimmune in nature. So Hashimoto's. So the first question is, yes, consistently reports. We don't have research on it, but that type 1 hypersensitivity response, including eczema, can respond really well to balancing, or again, you're making the immune system more coordinated and adaptive. So we do see good outcomes. And then the other I would say is we have a topical, and I don't know if you're familiar with the cream.
You know, I am. Okay, I am. I got the face cream.
Okay, that's it. So that is a face cream that you know, from a longevity perspective, if you're interested in aesthetics, there's research on beta-glucan and wrinkle reduction, but that aside, it's also a very powerful healing tool topically. So it can be used topically any place where the immune system needs support. So that can be, I mean, there's some excellent research on wound healing, eczema, some anecdotal stuff on psoriasis as well. So really powerful topically. And I would do internally as well, because we want to train it up starting in the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. That's where we want to start. And that will disseminate through the entire body, but then you can also apply it topically.
Oh, that's fascinating.
I know, great, right? And then the second, I actually have, well, I won't go into that right now, but we could do another one on the cream if you want, or on topical use of the product.
Oh God, I would love
time.
Yeah, I would love that.
And then the other one is the hypothyroidism. I would just be careful, again, low and slow, and watch it carefully, so that as you're training the immune system, that you don't create a big response, immune activity. But it would be, again, so I would be very comfortable prescribing it for someone even with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. If there's an immune component, then we want to remove that immune component to, or work with educating the immune system around what it's supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Okay. Fabulous. Great questions, guys. Yeah. And Barbara says that she would love to learn more about the topical as well. So let's plan another live if you're up for that.
I'm totally up for that.
All right. I'm very excited. Okay, guys. So we're going to, we'll do another live on that. All right. So let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's see. Where did we leave off? Okay. So I think what we were talking about are the protocols, right? We were talking about patient types. We've talked about several, and you've identified several as well. There's not many. The only contraindication, that's right, are people that, what did you say? They're on
immunosuppressive therapies.
Yeah, immunosuppressive therapies. Okay, so otherwise, no contraindications. Any other considerations in terms of when to introduce it into a protocol? Because I know a lot of our practitioners, we're using protocols now, right? So how does that all fit in?
Well, I think kind of the coolest way to think about it is that it's because, again, the immune system is influencing nearly every aspect of physiology, that if you're busy sort of chasing symptoms or trying to support a variety of symptoms, I think getting this involved as early as you can could really benefit the patient in terms of the quantity of supplements that they have to take, whether they'll be able to be compliant. I say that, I always feel like there's sort of a negative connotation with that, but it's just a term we use, right? It's like the patient compliance, right? It's a lot easier. To me, it makes more sense to work with the body, again, sort of higher up, and affect all of these downstream pathways. So getting it on board. One thing is that we have developed a immune questionnaire that's very similar to the functional medicine MSQ, that will assess, it's like sort of like grade 1 or number 1, 0 through 4, how often you have these symptoms, right? And so, it has a bunch of the different areas where we may not necessarily think, oh, the immune system's involved here. But you can give that test and then retest or resubmit the questionnaire 4 to 6 weeks later to evaluate whether the therapeutics you're using are actually moving the needle with the patient. And then we have a practitioner reference for it too. So that is actually being co-authored with Dr. Robert Roundtree. We're super excited. We're welcoming him as one of the founding members of our scientific advisory board. And it will be eventually, we're hoping, available through FullScript, or Doctor's Supplement Store will have it as well. And then we'll have it on our website eventually. Coming soon is BWH Academy, where you'll be able to have access to all of these resources for practitioners. So that then it becomes easier. How involved is the immune system? Can I test it before and after, and make sure that the therapeutics are working? But what I like about it, again, is just rather than kind of looking at the end result, I have something in this body system, and prescribing a supplement for each of those things. Sometimes that's essential, right? We need something to work with just the eczema, right? Or something just in the gut. But if you can really treat the root cause by working with this master communication of the immune system, you have the potential of saving your patient a lot of time and trouble.
I love that. So, yeah, do you have any comments on utilizing this product, this particular Better Way Health Beta-Glucan, more or less as a foundational tool?
Yes.
I mean, I know you talked a little bit about that. You alluded to it in terms of, I'm curious about, what your thoughts are
Mhm.
on the simplification of care. You did
Love
mention that it could be a good baseline
that.
supplement and potentially with consistent use, at least this was my interpretation of what you said, that maybe we can even eliminate some of the other supplements they're taking. Did I hear that correctly?
You did.
What do you
So
think?
here's why I think this is why I feel so strongly about this, is
Okay.
that we have, like I mentioned earlier, we have receptors for beta-glucan in our body. We are meant to interact with beta-glucan.
Okay.
It is something that we are designed to interact with, and that we know our body recognizes as a pattern, a signal, and knows what to do when it responds to it. So it's very different from, and I love botanicals, and I love, like some in other lifetime, I'm sure I was like a medicine woman in my garden with my herbs, right? I love herbs, in general. But while I was doing that, I would have been getting exposure to environmental beta-glucan, right? And we don't interact with beta-glucan environmentally the way that we used to. The other place, so this yeast-derived beta-glucan is coming from brewer's yeast or baker's yeast. They're both Saccharomyces, but the particular strain that we use comes from baker's yeast. So again, we will have been interacting with it before we had refrigeration. Does that make sense? With fermentation of food, preservation of food, just aren't getting the same degree of it anymore. And you'll never get this purity from any source of food. I mean, you could still benefit from fermented foods and all of that, right? But if you're really looking for this immune interaction, you need this purified source of it if you want it consistent. So having said that, to me, it's so clear, right, that we are meant to interact with it. And then the fact that it's interacting with the immune system and creating immune intelligence makes me feel like everybody could benefit from it, even just a small dose of it. Does that make sense? So yes, as foundational. It is foundational.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would look at it. I mean, that's how I do look at it. I just look at it too as just like I can be taking 50 other products that might be helpful for my immune system. But anyway, I do prioritize this particular product. I don't know how else to put it. Do you have a moment to answer this question before we start to wrap up? Are you able to see that? What about if they have alpha allergy? I have to say, I don't know what that is.
Alpha-gal is a tick-borne illness by the Lone Star tick, and it results in a meat allergy. So, and it's really increasing rapidly right now.
Oh, goodness.
So, and the real answer is I don't know whether, but any time that there's an immune system component, I would do the same thing. This would be, in my clinical practice, the first thing that I would reach for in the event of that particular illness, because I would monitor it very closely, because again, you don't want to, someone who's already hyperreactive, you want to just track that person closely. So yeah, it's a disturbing one that's on the rise. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That is not something I've heard of. Okay, guys, I'm going to share. I just want to reshare the link in case you are interested in getting yourself a wholesale account. And you can go to lesliebytel.com/BWH, and it should take you right there so that you can grab your account. Oh my gosh, time flies, right?
Yes.
I really look forward to a continuation of this. There's so much to dig into. So I love how today you gave us a great overview of this brand new hot off the press research from TruDiagnostics. I know that is no small undertaking, especially if you're looking at, I think you said over 900,000 endpoints.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
That's insane.
Thank goodness for technology, because they can do the algorithms and I don't have to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you look ahead, I guess the question is, what excites you most about trained immunity and immune resilience in the future of clinical practice?
Oh man, you know what excites me the most really is this sort of event and the opportunity to help other practitioners and consumers become familiar with beta-glucan and its effects. And like we talked about at the beginning, just really having the opportunity to champion something that has this much research and this much efficacy, and to blow people's mind with what is trained immunity, and that it's completely changed the paradigm for how we think of the innate immune system, which for a nerd like me is really exciting. So that's why I talk to other nerds.
It's great. Yeah, it's just really, I mean, science does evolve, let's be honest, but this is pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen every day.
Forever, the trained immunity has been there forever, but we didn't discover it until it's like 15 years ago that we discovered
wow
of trained immunity. So yeah.
Okay, amazing. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
I mean, I think, what I would share is why this feels so aligned for me working with this product and this company is that piece of, we don't want to remove ourselves from life, right? We want really what we need, or where we thrive is when we can engage with life without fear. And that's for me, really what this product, this company is doing, is offering people sort of a second chance or a stab at being able to thrive in the environment as it is. We still have lots of other responsibilities, sort of personal responsibilities that we talked about earlier, like just taking care of ourselves and our bodies. But when we have something like this, and even if you don't have this, but just leaning into the trust of nature and the body's innate healing wisdom, like for me, coming back to that, when I have, even as a practitioner, 30, 50 options for prescribing something, leading back into, again, like, wait a second, something out there is smarter than me. And if I can lean into that wisdom of whether it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, if it's creation, evolution, whatever it is, something smarter than my human mind, and just being able to lean back into that. Okay, how do I lean into the innate wisdom of the human body and have faith and trust that it can do what it needs to do under the circumstances? Yeah.
Very powerful. And I know that is the naturopathic model.
It is. Yeah.
It really, which is so cool. Okay. Hang on one second. I lost you in terms of your sound.
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. Okay. I didn't know if that was something I did on my end.
Nope, it was just me being quiet for once.
Okay. Wow. Okay. All right, guys. So listen, we could talk a lot more, but we're going to wrap up for now. To be continued. How's that? To be continued. I love it. All right, guys. So just a quick reminder, I have included the link to grab yourself a wholesale account, and you can get that by going to lesliebytel.com/BWH. And I think you will find some pretty good savings via a wholesale account. Also, FYI, guys, you can order the 100 milligram capsule and the 500 milligram Better Way Health Beta-Glucan on Fullscript. So that is relatively new. So I definitely want to make sure I remember to mention that. I do quite a lot of work with Fullscript. I love, love, love that platform. It is a great fit for your protocols on the platform and also in Journey. So that's a whole nother topic that we've been talking a lot about. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and wrap right now. Thanks again, Dr. Joselyn. I really want to thank you for your time today. And
you.
I will look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks for everyone that was able to join us live, and look forward to your questions. Please drop them, DM me, email me, whatever you need, and I will forward them on to Dr. Joselyn, get those questions answered. Okay, everybody, have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye for
Thanks
now.
so much.
Thank you.